5 phrases that turn a traffic stop into a nightmare for legal gun owners. 3 words, that's all it takes. 3 words spoken in good faith, with honest intentions, during what should have been a forgettable 2-minute traffic stop. And just like that, your evening takes a turn you never saw coming. The worst part? You thought you were doing everything right. You thought honesty and cooperation were your best tools, and nobody ever told you that those 3 little words could be weaponized against you the moment they left your lips. Here's what we're going to do today. We're going to walk through 5 specific phrases that legally armed, responsible, law-abiding citizens say during traffic stops every single day across this country. These are phrases that feel polite, they feel cooperative, they feel like exactly the right thing to say in the moment, but each one of them has the potential to quietly, almost invisibly, erode your legal standing before you even realize what's happened. And for every single one of these phrases, I'm going to hand you the exact replacement words to use instead. Words that keep you safe, keep you respectful, and keep every legal option available to you. By the time we're done here, you'll know precisely what to say, precisely what to avoid, and precisely how to carry yourself during a traffic stop with calm, clarity, and legal awareness. And I need to tell you something about number 3 on this list. It catches people completely off guard, even experienced carriers, even people who've studied their rights. So stick with me through the entire breakdown, because the one you skip might be the one that matters most for your situation. Before we dive in, a critical note. Everything discussed here is for educational purposes only. This is not legal advice. Laws vary dramatically from state to state, and your individual circumstances may differ significantly from the scenarios we cover. Always consult with a qualified attorney for guidance specific to your situation. Now let's talk about why this conversation carries more weight right now than it ever has before. Courts at every level, including the very highest, have been actively reshaping how the law interprets your rights during encounters with law enforcement. Decisions involving self-incrimination protections, search and seizure boundaries, and the specific rights of armed citizens are being tested, challenged, and redrawn in real time. That might sound like dry legal theory, but here's what it translates to on the side of a highway at 11 o'clock at night. The words you choose in the first 30 seconds of a police stop can either shield you under those evolving protections or surrender them entirely. Most people have absolutely no idea where that line sits. That's exactly what we're here to fix. Phrase number 1 is the big one. And I already know what's going to run through your mind when you hear it. The phrase is blurting out that you're armed the moment the officer reaches your window. Your gut reaction is probably something like, well, isn't that the honest thing to do? Doesn't full transparency protect me? Let me give you the practical reality. In a significant number of states, you have zero legal obligation to volunteer the presence of a firearm the instant an officer approaches your vehicle. Now, this comes with an essential caveat. Some states absolutely do have what's called a duty to inform law, which means you are legally required to disclose that you're carrying, either when directly asked or in some cases before they even ask. But here's what this phrase gets dangerously wrong even in those states. Delivering that information flat, unframed, with no context and no composure, as the very first thing out of your mouth, gives the officer nothing to work with except a sudden spike of adrenaline. It can trigger an immediate escalation that neither one of you wanted or expected. Here's what you say instead. You calmly state that you want to let the officer know you are a licensed carrier and that you are cooperating fully, and then you ask how they would like you to proceed. Look at what that accomplishes. You're not concealing a single thing. You're giving the officer control of the interaction while simultaneously maintaining your composure and protecting your legal position. And here's the piece most people completely miss. That phrasing simultaneously signals calm, signals compliance, and signals that you understand your rights, all in one breath. This absolutely varies by state, so verifying your local duty to inform law is essential. I'll show you exactly how to do that before this video wraps up. Now, if that first one surprised you, stay locked in, because phrase number 2 is something I hear from responsible, experienced carriers constantly. People who genuinely believe they're being helpful, and it can make your situation dramatically worse. The phrase is volunteering the specific location of your firearm, telling the officer it's in the glove compartment, the center console, under the seat, wherever it happens to be. The instant you provide an officer with the exact location of your firearm without being asked, you've accomplished 2 things simultaneously. You've opened the door to a search conversation, and in certain jurisdictions, you may have created the legal basis for the officer to retrieve that firearm for the entire duration of the stop. Let me translate that out of legal language and into reality. You just gave away information you were under no obligation to provide, and the moment those words are spoken, there is no mechanism to take them back. They exist now. They're part of the encounter. They can be documented, noted, and referenced. Here's your replacement. You simply state that you are a licensed, lawful carrier and that you are happy to answer questions and follow instructions, and then you stop talking. You wait. You let the officer guide the conversation from that point forward. Less is more. Calm is more. Your role in that moment is not to deliver a comprehensive inventory of everything in your vehicle and where it's located. Your role is to be cooperative, clear, and composed. Let the officer ask whatever they need to ask. Anything beyond that is volunteering ammunition against your own interests. Quick checkpoint, because this next one is the phrase I told you about at the start. Phrase number 3 is the one that blindsides people the most. And here it is. The phrase is telling the officer you have a permit, so everything is fine. Let me unpack why this is so much more dangerous than it sounds. Your carry permit is absolutely important. It is a legitimate legal document demonstrating that you completed a process, passed a background check, and were approved to carry. But those 2 words at the end, "it's fine," are doing an enormous amount of heavy and dangerous lifting in that sentence. In the vast majority of jurisdictions, possessing a carry permit does not limit an officer's authority to investigate, to detain, or to ask questions during a traffic stop. Your permit tells them you cleared a background process. It does not communicate that the stop is over, that their questions are unnecessary, or that their authority has been neutralized. And when you tack on that casual dismissal, even with a friendly tone, even with a smile, it can register as dismissive of the officer's authority. That is the absolute last impression you want to create on the shoulder of a road during a traffic encounter. What you say instead is straightforward. You present the document, you state that you are happy to follow instructions and answer any questions, and you say nothing further. The permit speaks for itself. It does not need your editorial commentary layered on top of it. And one more crucial reminder here. Concealed carry reciprocity and permit recognition laws vary enormously from state to state. If you are traveling, the permit laws in your home state may carry absolutely no weight in the state you're currently driving through. This must be verified before you cross that state line, not after you're standing on the shoulder explaining yourself. We're past the halfway mark now, and phrase number 4 trips up a very specific type of person. The person who has actually done their homework. The person who has researched their rights, understands the legal landscape, and considers themselves well prepared. This one is for you, and please do not underestimate it. The phrase comes in several variations. It sounds like casually mentioning you're heading to the range, or that you just left a firearms retailer, or that you carry with you everywhere you go. This is what I call the oversharing trap, and it originates from a genuinely good impulse. You want to come across as normal, relatable, responsible, and non-threatening. You're a lawful gun owner, and you want the officer to see that. The problem is this: every single piece of information you voluntarily hand over becomes a piece that can be documented, recorded, and potentially applied in a context you never intended and never anticipated. A casual, friendly remark about carrying everywhere you go could, down the road, be characterized as an admission that becomes relevant to an entirely separate legal question you never saw coming. Your replacement phrase is simple and powerful. You calmly state that you'd prefer to answer only the questions needed for this specific stop, and that you are cooperating fully. You are not being difficult. You are not being confrontational or evasive. You are exercising a right that courts have broadly and repeatedly recognized, the right not to volunteer information beyond what is legally required. Calm, polite, and clear. That is your benchmark for every word that comes out of your mouth during these encounters. And now we arrive at phrase number 5, and this one carries particular weight because it tends to come from people who know their rights. People who have educated themselves, people who have watched content exactly like what you're watching right now. The phrase is aggressively demanding to know if you're being detained and whether you're free to leave. Now let me be absolutely clear about something. Asked at the appropriate moment in the appropriate tone, that is a legitimate and legally grounded question rooted in real constitutional principles. But delivered the wrong way, with aggression, with confrontation, repeated over and over, it can escalate a completely routine stop into something far more serious. And it can undo every single calm, cooperative impression you carefully built in the preceding minutes. Here's the legal reality. An officer conducting a lawful traffic stop possesses the authority to temporarily detain you for the duration of that stop. Demanding repeatedly and combatively to know if you're being detained does not legally end the encounter. It simply makes everything worse for you. Your replacement is about timing and tone just as much as it's about the actual words. You calmly express your desire to cooperate fully, and once things are wrapping up, you ask politely whether you're free to go when the officer is finished. Identical question. completely transformed energy. The right tone converts a potential confrontation into a productive conversation. And never forget this, de-escalation is not weakness. De-escalation is strategy. The side of a road is never, under any circumstances, the venue where you win a legal argument. That is what courtrooms and attorneys exist for. Before we continue, please consult a qualified attorney before applying any of these principles to your specific situation. Every stop, every state, every set of circumstances is genuinely different. Here's your concrete action plan, because hearing that laws vary by state accomplishes nothing on its own without knowing how to actually verify yours. Start by searching your state's official legislative website for the concealed carry statute. Look specifically for language around duty to inform or mandatory disclosure. Determine whether your state requires you to proactively inform an officer that you're carrying, or whether disclosure is only required when directly asked. If you travel across state lines with a firearm, research reciprocity laws thoroughly, because your home state permit may hold zero legal recognition in the state you're passing through. Check your state attorney general's website or a reputable firearms law organization for a plain English summary of the relevant statutes. And finally, invest in a 30-minute consultation with a licensed attorney in your state who specializes in firearms law. That single conversation will clarify more than hours of independent research ever could. Let's bring all 5 together for a clean summary you can reference whenever you need it. For phrase 1, never blurt out that you're armed without context. Instead, calmly identify yourself as a licensed carrier, affirm your cooperation, and ask how the officer would like to proceed. For phrase 2, never volunteer the specific location of your firearm. Instead, state that you're a lawful carrier and that you're prepared to follow instructions. For phrase 3, never present your permit with a dismissive editorial attached. Instead, hand over the document, offer to follow instructions, and let the permit do its own talking. For phrase 4, never volunteer where you've been, where you're going, or how frequently you carry. Instead, express your preference to answer only what's needed for this stop while affirming full cooperation. For phrase 5, never demand to know about your detention status in an aggressive or combative manner. Instead, express cooperation and politely inquire whether you're free to leave once the stop concludes. The overarching principle connecting all 5 phrases is this: calm, cooperative, and concise. Those 3 words are your armor on the side of any road in any state during any encounter. And here is the final rule I want you to carry with you long after this video ends. The roadside is not the courtroom. Your objective during those 2 to 5 minutes is not to win. Your objective is to get home safely, legally, and with every single option still available to you. The courtroom, if that day ever arrives, is where rights get argued, debated, and defended. The roadside is where you protect your right to argue them later. That's it for today, folks. See you in the next video.